The plant didn't look like anything I'd ever seen before. I wasn't planning to buy anything that day. I was just walking past a small plant shop on the corner of my street. One I'd never noticed before, even though I walk by there almost every day. It didn't even have a name on the window. Just glass, with fog on the inside, and rows of green shapes I couldn't make out. But something drew me in. As soon as I stepped inside, I felt weird. Not bad. Just still. Quiet. Like everything had slowed down just a little. The woman behind the counter didn't say a word. She just nodded at me like she knew why I was there. That's when I saw it. It was sitting on a small wooden table in the back. It looked like it was glowing a little, even though the light in the shop was dim. The leaves were deep green, almost black, with veins that shimmered purple when I got closer. And the smell, it wasn't strong, but something about it made me feel calm. Like home. I asked the woman what it was called. She didn't answer right away. Then she smiled and said, "It chooses who sees it." I didn't understand what that meant, but I felt like I had to have it. Like if I left without it, I'd never stop thinking about it. I paid in cash. She didn't give me a receipt. Didn't even ask for my name. Just handed me the pot and whispered, "Take care of it." The pot was heavier than it looked. Warm too, like it had been sitting in the sun, even though the shop felt cold. When I got it home, I placed it on the window ledge in my bedroom. It looked perfect there, almost like it had always belonged. I gave it some water, watched the soil drink it in. The leaves shimmered for a second, like it liked it. But that night, that's when things started to feel strange. I was falling asleep when I heard a sound. So, like a hum. Almost like a lullaby with no words. I thought maybe it was something outside or my phone, but when I opened my eyes, the room was still. Except the plant was swaying. Just slightly. There was no wind. The windows were closed. It stopped when I stared at it too long. But as soon as I looked away, there it was again. That small movement. That hum. I tried to sleep, but the sound wouldn't stop. Not loud. Just constant. Not annoying either. In fact, it made me feel relaxed. My thoughts slowed down. My breathing got deeper. I don't even remember falling asleep. When I woke up, the room smelled sweeter than before. Like honey and rain. The plant looked a little bigger. Not a lot. Just enough to notice. I checked the water tray. It was still full. It hadn't taken a drop. But it looked healthier. Greener. Like it had been fed something else. I didn't think much of it at first. Plants don't grow overnight, right? Maybe I was just tired. Maybe I imagined the hum. Maybe I was just lonely. That's what I kept telling myself. Until the next night when the humming came back. And this time, it said my name. At first, I thought I was dreaming. I was lying in bed, half awake, when I heard it again, the soft humming sound. The same as the night before. Gentle. Strange. Like it was being sung right inside my head. But then I heard something else. Not humming. A whisper. My name. Not loud, not clear. But I heard it. I know I did. It came from the corner of my room, from where the plant sat. I sat up fast. My heart was racing. I looked around. Nothing was moving. No wind, no shadows. Just the plant sitting quietly in its spot. But the air in the room felt heavier. Like someone had just been there and left a second before I opened my eyes. I got up and walked to the window. Outside was calm. Empty street. No people. No voices. I looked back at the plant. It was still. No movement. No glow. I whispered, "Did you say my name?" Nothing. I laughed to myself. I was tired, right? Maybe I said my own name in a dream and thought it came from somewhere else. That had to be it. It made sense. Sort of. But when I leaned closer to the plant, I felt it again. That warmth. That strange heat coming from the soil. And that smell, it was stronger now. still sweet, but deeper, like something burning gently under the surface. I could swear the leaves twitched when I got too close. I didn't sleep much the rest of the night. The next morning, I checked the plant again. It had definitely grown. The leaves looked bigger, fuller. The stems were reaching toward the window, but not in a normal way. It looked like it had stretched overnight, like someone had pulled it upward. And then I noticed something weird. At the base of the pot, there were drops of liquid. Dark red. Not water. Thicker. Looked like... I shook my head. I wasn't even going to think that. It had to be something from the pot. Paint maybe. Or old soil. I cleaned it up quickly and tried not to look too closely. But then I remembered. I hadn't watered it. Not at all since the first day. And yet, it was growing faster than any plant I'd ever had. Later that day, I decided to go back to the plant shop. I wanted answers. I wanted to ask the woman what kind of plant this was, why it was acting this way. But when I reached the street corner, it wasn't there. The shop was gone. Not closed. Gone. Just a blank building with a metal shutter. No glass, no foggy windows. No sign it had ever been there at all. I asked someone walking by if they remembered the plant shop that used to be there. They looked at me like I was crazy. "There's never been a shop here," they said. "That place has been empty for years." I stood there for a long time, staring at the wall, trying to understand. Was I going crazy? Did I imagine the whole thing? I had the plant. I still had it. I took a picture of it that morning. It was real, but it was also growing, feeding, and now it knew my name. That night, I was scared to fall asleep. I left the light on, sat up in bed, just watching the plant, watching the way its leaves curled and moved slowly, almost like it was breathing. It didn't look dangerous. In fact, it still looked beautiful. Too beautiful, almost glowing in the light from the lamp. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I told myself I'd stay awake. But at some point, the humming came back. Like a lullaby made for my thoughts. And just like that, my eyes closed. I don't remember falling asleep. I just remember waking up, gasping. I sat up quickly. It was dark now. The lamp was off. And my bedroom door was open. I always lock it at night. I walked to the hallway. My heart was pounding. I checked every room. Everything looked normal. No windows broken. No doors open. But in the kitchen, the fridge door was slightly ajar. And next to it, on the counter, was a spoon, covered in something thick. I picked it up. It smelled metallic, like old blood. I dropped it instantly. I turned around to see if someone had broken in. But no one was there. No one had touched anything. I went back to the living room, back to the plant. And that's when I noticed its leaves had grown again. Thicker, darker, almost waxy. And something else. Its soil was wet. Too wet. But I hadn't watered it. I hadn't even touched it since the day before. Then I saw it. Underneath the pot, a dark stain on the floor. A drip trail, leading back toward the hallway. I followed it slowly, step by step. It led straight to the kitchen. I opened the fridge again, carefully this time. There was a pack of raw meat inside. One I'd bought 2 weeks ago but never used. It was empty now. The plastic was torn open. Nothing left inside. I didn't eat it. I never opened it. The plant did. I backed away, shaking. The plant had gone to the fridge while I slept. But how? It was a plant. It couldn't move. Right? But the humming, the sleep, the open doors. It could move. Not the way we do. Not with legs or arms. But it found a way to feed itself while I slept. And worst of all, I didn't even hear it. I didn't sleep the next night. I couldn't. I sat on the couch with all the lights on, eyes locked on the plant. It didn't hum this time. Maybe it knew I was watching. I didn't blink much. Every rustle of its leaves made my body tense up. Every creak in the apartment made my heart race. Around 2 a.m., something snapped. Not inside me. Inside the wall. It was soft but clear, like wood splitting. I turned my head slowly. The sound had come from the wall right behind the plant. I walked toward it. My hands were cold. There was a crack, thin but visible, running down the plaster, just behind where the plant's pot touched the baseboard. I crouched down and put my ear to it, and I heard something. It was faint, like something squirming or crawling. No humming, no whispering, just that slow, slippery sound. I grabbed a flashlight and moved the plant gently aside. That's when I noticed the floor, deep scratches under the pot, as if something had dragged it. The wall behind it had bulged slightly, like it was being pushed from the inside. I didn't want to, but I pressed my fingers along the baseboard. One of the wooden panels felt loose. I pulled. It came off with a quiet snap, and behind it, there was a hole. Not a crack or a gap, but a deep, hollow tunnel, dug out from the inside. It smelled like dirt and something older, like rotting roots. And inside that tunnel, curling deeper into the dark, was a thick, pale root. It pulsed softly, like it was alive. I fell back and almost dropped the flashlight. That root, it wasn't just part of the plant anymore. It had grown through my wall. And worse, it was heading somewhere. I backed away and looked toward the hallway, toward my bedroom. I had to know. I walked slowly down the hall, checking each wall as I passed. Knocking, tapping, listening. Outside my bedroom door, I heard it again. That same wet squirming sound. I turned the knob. The door creaked open. And across my bedroom wall, right behind my bed, was a long, jagged crack. It hadn't been there before. And from it, something dark had seeped out onto the floor. It wasn't water. It was thicker, sticky. It looked almost like sap or blood. The root wasn't just feeding anymore. It was spreading. I don't remember falling asleep that night, but I woke up in my bed. The sun was up. Everything looked normal. For a second, I thought maybe it was all a dream. But when I went to the living room, the plant was still there, sitting on its stand, silent. Still, the crack in the wall? Gone. The hole I had found? Sealed shut. Like nothing had happened. I should have been relieved. But something wasn't right. I opened the fridge. It was empty. I could have sworn I bought groceries 2 days ago. I checked my phone. No recent calls. No messages. I had a vague memory of texting someone the night before, or was it the night before that? My calendar was blank. I stood in the middle of the room and tried to remember what I'd done yesterday. Nothing came. I sat down and stared at the plant. Its leaves were bigger, glossier. Had it grown overnight? I leaned in. That low humming sound started again, soft and warm, like a lullaby. But it wasn't comforting anymore. It was pulling at me. I shook my head and stood up fast. I needed to get out, get some air. I grabbed my keys and phone and rushed outside. But when I reached the bottom of the stairs, I saw my neighbor, Mrs. Lin, coming up. She looked surprised. "You're okay," she said. I blinked. "What do you mean?" "I knocked yesterday. I even called. No answer." "I didn't remember that." "Are you sure it was yesterday?" She frowned. "Yes. You missed garbage day too. That's not like you." My stomach twisted. I walked to the curb and saw my trash bin still full. Had I really lost a full day? Back inside, I checked the phone again. No missed calls. No voicemails. But my call history had a number I didn't recognize. It was just a blank entry. No name. No digits. Just a time. 3:33 a.m. I didn't call anyone at that hour. I listened to the voicemail inbox. One new message. I hit play. It was just static at first. Then, underneath it, A whisper. My voice. I fed it again. The message ended. I dropped the phone. I didn't remember saying that, or doing that. But when I turned toward the plant again, I saw something new. The pot was wet. Something dark had soaked into the soil. It smelled faintly metallic, like blood, and the plant was humming louder now, almost happy. It was around midnight when I heard the front gate creak. I live alone on a quiet street. No reason for anyone to be outside my house at that hour. I muted the TV and sat up, listening. Footsteps. Not rushing. Slow. Measured. As if whoever it was knew exactly where they were going. I peeked through the window but saw no one. Still, the footsteps kept getting closer until they stopped right outside my front door. I held my breath, waiting for a knock. But there was nothing. No sound. No voice. Just silence. I finally whispered, "Hello." Still no answer. I crept to the peephole and looked. Empty porch. But the plant was humming again. A little louder this time. I turned to look at it. Its leaves swayed slightly, though the windows were shut. No wind. I stood still for a few more minutes, trying to make sense of it. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe the footsteps were just someone passing by. But when I went to check the porch the next morning, I found something. A red smear on the doorknob. Not blood. I don't think. It was too thick. Too sticky. There was also something sitting on the welcome mat. A small silver spoon. Bent in the middle, like someone had crushed it in their fist. I stared at it for a long time. Who would leave a spoon? I picked it up and instantly felt cold, even though the sun was out. I brought it inside and put it on the counter. I didn't know what else to do. Then I noticed something else. The plant. It had grown taller. A few new buds had formed. One was already blooming, small, bright red, like it was soaked in dye. That humming sound returned as I stared at it. Calming, but too strong now. Like it was inside my head. That night, I placed the spoon in a drawer and tried to sleep. At 3:33 a.m., I woke up. I didn't know why. The house was silent. I got up, walked to the living room, and the front door was wide open. Not cracked, not unlocked. Open. The porch was empty, but just outside, on the doormat, another spoon. And next to it, a single word carved into the wood with something sharp. Hunger. I woke up standing in the middle of the hallway. At first, I didn't understand where I was. My hands were cold and my mouth was dry. The apartment was completely dark except for the soft blue light from the fish tank in the living room. I looked down and saw I wasn't wearing shoes. I was still in my pajamas. I had no memory of getting out of bed. That's when I noticed I was holding something in my right hand. It was a small kitchen knife. My heart jumped. I dropped the knife and took a shaky breath. I didn't remember picking it up. I didn't even remember waking up. I turned to check the bedroom, and the door was wide open. The blankets on the bed were pushed aside, like I had gotten up in a hurry. I slowly walked into the living room. The hum was louder now. The soft, low sound that always came from the plant. It was almost like it was breathing. The plant was glowing slightly. Not a light like from a bulb, but more like the way fireflies glow. Soft, pulsing. And at its base, the soil was wet. I had not watered it that day. I stepped closer. My breath got caught in my throat. The smell, metallic and thick, like blood. I dropped to my knees and touched the soil. It was damp, sticky. I wiped my fingers on my pajama pants. I stood up too fast and felt dizzy. That's when I noticed the footprints. Wet, dark, bare footprints leading from the plant back down the hallway. They matched the size of my own feet. I stood still for a long time, staring at the trail, heart pounding. Something wasn't right. Either I was losing time, or something else was controlling me when I was asleep. And the plant. The plant looked stronger, bigger. Its leaves had curled upward slightly, like it was stretching, like it was satisfied. I backed away slowly. From that night on, I started locking my bedroom door from the inside. I even blocked it with a chair. But I still wake up standing. I still find dirt on the floor. And the plant, it's still humming, still growing. I started locking my bedroom door at night. I know how strange that sounds, especially since I live alone. But after waking up with dirt on my hands again, I couldn't trust myself. The plant, it wasn't just growing, it was moving. I don't mean swaying like leaves in wind. I mean the pot was never where I left it. Once, I found it on the kitchen counter. Another time, it was near the bathroom. I had no memory of touching it. And each night, the hum got louder. Not like a machine. It was more like a song. A low, slow tune that felt like it was playing from inside my chest. It made my eyelids heavy, my body soft. But one night I fought it. I stayed awake. I didn't turn off the lights. I sat on my bed, staring at the door. At exactly 2:17 a.m., I heard the hum start. It was gentle at first, then stronger. The changed. There was something new in it, a kind of whisper beneath the hum. I stood up, even though my legs didn't want to move. I opened the door. The plant wasn't in the living room anymore. It was outside my bedroom. No pot. Just sitting there. Its roots curled tightly around the doorknob, like it had been waiting for me to open it. My breath caught in my throat. I stepped back, and I swear, I saw one of the leaves twitch. Not randomly, not like a plant, like it was reacting. I closed the door fast, locked it again. I didn't sleep that night. I kept hearing the hum, even though it never got louder again. In the morning, the plant was back in the living room, neatly potted, still, like nothing had ever happened. But I know it did. I know I didn't imagine it. And I know now, it doesn't just feed. It watches. The next day, I stayed out as long as I could. I went to the park, got coffee, even visited a friend I hadn't seen in years. I just didn't want to go home. I was scared of a plant. That sounds ridiculous, right? But it didn't feel like a plant anymore. When I finally came back, the apartment felt off. The air was warm and heavy, like it hadn't moved all day. I opened the window, but the feeling didn't go away. The plant was exactly where I left it, sitting on the table. Innocent. I stared at it, waiting for it to move, waiting for a sign that it was more than it pretended to be. But nothing happened. That night, I put it in the bathroom. I shut the door, locked it from the outside, and placed a chair under the handle. I told myself I'd prove it couldn't move on its own. I even laughed a little. Maybe I was losing my mind. At 2:17 a.m., like always, the humming started. But this time, it was muffled, like it was trapped behind the bathroom door. Then the humming changed. It turned into knocking. So, rhythmic, like someone tapping gently from inside the bathroom. I sat up in bed, frozen. The knocking stopped, then started again, a little louder. My phone buzzed suddenly, a text from an unknown number. It said, "I'm thirsty." I dropped the phone. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. Who sent that? How did they know? I ran to the bathroom door. The knocking had stopped. I waited. Then I heard it. A quiet whisper through the door, "Water won't work anymore." I didn't open it. I just stared, and the humming slowly faded away. Morning came, and the plant was back on the table again. The bathroom door still locked. The chair still in place. Nothing made sense. But one thing was clear. Whatever this plant was, it could speak. And it was learning to ask for more. I didn't go to work the next day. I couldn't. I sat on my couch for hours, staring at the plant. It looked peaceful, still, like it hadn't moved at all. Like it wasn't the same thing that whispered to me last night. But I knew better now. It wasn't just a plant. It was something else. Something alive in a way plants shouldn't be. I tried to act normal. I made coffee. I turned on the TV. But I couldn't focus on anything. My eyes kept going back to it. Its leaves were glossier than before. Brighter. The edges curled ever so slightly upward, like it was smiling. I couldn't explain it, but it felt satisfied. That scared me the most, because I hadn't watered it since the last time. I hadn't given it anything. So, what had it fed on? The more I stared at it, the more I felt it watching me too. Not physically moving, just aware, like it could read my thoughts. Then I remembered the text. I went through my phone, trying to find that message, "I'm thirsty." But it wasn't there. Not in my messages. Not in deleted ones either. It was like it never existed. I decided I had to get rid of the plant. I told myself it didn't matter how beautiful it was. It didn't matter what it cost or how unique it looked. It had to go. I put on gloves, picked it up carefully. Its pot was heavier than I remembered, almost too heavy for its size. I didn't look at it. I didn't want to make eye contact, if that even made sense. I walked it to the trash chute down the hall, opened the heavy metal door, and hesitated. Just for a second. I could feel a low vibration in my arms, like the plant was humming again, right through my skin. It was almost pleading. I couldn't listen. I dropped it in. I heard the ceramic pot break as it hit the bottom. A deep cracking sound. Final. I waited. No sound. No movement. No humming. Back in my apartment, I felt lighter. I took a deep breath. I even smiled for the first time in days. I opened my fridge, grabbed a drink, sat down to rest. And then I froze. There was. Back on the table. The pot unbroken. The leaves even greener than before. And this time, something new had sprouted from the soil. A small, red bud, beating, like a tiny, silent heart. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? The plant was back, sitting calmly on my table like nothing had happened, like I hadn't dropped it down a 3-story trash chute. Its leaves swayed softly, even though all the windows were closed. And that red bud, it was still pulsing, slowly, rhythmically, like it was breathing, or alive in a way I didn't understand. I sat across from it, lights off, watching it. I didn't move for hours. I wanted to convince myself it was just a trick of the light, just my imagination. But no, the hum was real. I could feel it again, vibrating inside my chest. It wasn't a sound. It was a presence. At some point, my head started to feel heavy. My eyes burned. I didn't mean to fall asleep, but the hum pulled me in. When I woke up, it was morning. The plant was still there, and the red bud had bloomed. It had opened like a flower, except what was inside wasn't anything floral. It looked like skin. Pink, soft folds, like a tongue or a piece of muscle. I jumped back from the table. My stomach turned. I wanted to run, to scream, but I didn't. I watched as the plant began to close its petals again, hiding the fleshy center like it hadn't meant to show me. But I saw it. I knew now this was never a plant. I called a local botanist. I didn't know what else to do. I told him I had found a rare plant in a flea market and I was worried it might be dangerous. I asked if he could take a look. He sounded curious. A little too curious. He agreed to come by that evening. I spent the day pacing my apartment, avoiding the table. I didn't eat. I didn't speak. I just waited. When the doorbell rang, I rushed to answer it. The man was in his late 50s, glasses, notebook in hand. He smiled when he saw the plant. But that smile didn't last long. He walked over, knelt down beside it, and touched one of the leaves. It curled slightly. Then something changed in his face. He slowly stood up, keeping his eyes on the plant. "This isn't from any species I know," he said quietly. "It's reacting like it knows I'm not you." I asked what he meant. He looked at me, eyes wide, serious. "It bonded to you. I think it's feeding from you. Emotionally. Maybe more." He turned to leave. "You need to get rid of it. Fess. Don't sleep near it. Don't listen when it speaks. And no matter what." The lights flickered. Everything went dark. And the humming grew louder. When the lights flickered out, I couldn't see anything, only feel that humming. It wasn't just in the room. It was inside me, like it had gotten stronger. Like the plant was feeding. The botanist shouted something, but his voice was drowned out by the sound. It wasn't just a hum anymore. It was like a low growl vibrating through the walls, through my bones. My ears rang. My knees buckled. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The lights blinked back on. I scrambled up and looked around the apartment. The plant was still on the table, unmoving, quiet. But the botanist, he was gone. His notebook was still lying on the floor. But no sign of him. Not even the front door opening. Nothing. He'd vanished. I called out. Checked the hallway. Nothing. He just disappeared. When I came back inside, the plant looked different. The red bud had bloomed again, but whiter this time. And inside I saw something. Not petals. Not a tongue. But something like an eye. It blinked. I backed away slowly, afraid to even breathe. My mind kept repeating the same word over and over, run. I grabbed my keys, phone, and rushed out of the apartment. I drove to a motel on the edge of town and checked in with cash. I needed space. I needed to think. I kept the curtains shut and sat on the edge of the bed, trying to calm my heartbeat. But every few minutes, I swore I could still hear that hum. Faint, like it was following me. I picked up the botanist's notebook, which I had grabbed in my panic. I opened it and flipped through the pages. Drawings of plants. Notes. Then, the last few pages were about mine. Not listed in any known database. Organic, but mimics emotional connection. Possibly psychic. Feeds off attention. May become violent when starved. The final line was scribbled quickly, almost shaky. If it begins to open its eye, do not look directly. I had looked. I had stared into it. And now it knew where I was. Suddenly, the humming returned. Louder. But this time, it wasn't just in my head. I turned toward the motel window. Something was behind the curtains. Moving. And it was humming. I froze. The humming behind the curtain grew louder, deeper. It was the same sound, the one the plant made when it first bloomed. But I had left the plant at home. Locked in my apartment. I reached for the lamp and turned it off. Darkness swallowed the room. My heart thumped so loudly I was afraid whatever was on the other side of that curtain could hear it. I inched closer, every part of me screaming to run, but my body refused to move too fast. The curtain shifted again. I whispered, "Who's there?" No answer. Just the sound of soft rustling, like leaves brushing against glass. With trembling fingers, I reached out and pulled the curtain back. Nothing. Just the night sky. A streetlight flickering in the distance. The window was closed, locked. But on the outside glass, there was a single red smear. Long wet. I backed away. I grabbed my phone to call the police, but the screen didn't light up. I tried the motel phone. No dial tone. I was completely cut off. Then the humming changed. It wasn't outside anymore. It was behind me. I turned slowly toward the bathroom. The door was cracked open. A faint red glow. I stood completely still. That red glow spilling from the bathroom door made my skin crawl. It pulsed, almost like it was breathing. The humming grew louder. It wasn't just a sound anymore. I could feel it inside my head, like it was trying to wrap itself around my thoughts. My mouth went dry. I took one slow step forward. I don't know why I moved. I didn't want to. Every instinct told me to run out of the motel room and never look back. But something stronger than fear pulled me toward the bathroom, like a thread tugging at my chest. I pushed the door open. The mirror was fogged, though I hadn't used the shower. On the floor, something was growing through the tiles, small vines, red and black, crawling like veins across the floor and up the walls. And right there in the middle of the sink was the plant. My plant. But it was bigger, much bigger than it should have been. Its petals were open wide, revealing rows of tiny, sharp teeth hidden inside the bloom. And it was feeding. I couldn't see what it was feeding on, not fully, but something pale and still was slumped over the sink. I covered my mouth. Then it looked at me. No eyes. Just the plant's center shifting slightly toward me, and the humming stopped. I whispered, "How did you get here?" No answer, of course. Only movement. The vines snapped toward me, fast, hungry, and I slammed the door shut, pressing my body against it. I could hear them thudding against the wood, scratching, twisting. I grabbed my bag, keys, and ran down the stairs, out into the dark street. I didn't care where I was going. I just needed to be away. But even as I ran, I knew something awful. I never brought the plant here. I left it at home. It brought itself. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept driving, not even sure where I was going. My hands were tight on the wheel, and my eyes felt dry and heavy. Every few minutes, I'd glance in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see vines creeping up the back seat. The memory of the motel bathroom still burned in my head. That red glow, the sound of the plant humming, the way it moved like it could feel me, think like me. What was this thing? By morning, I pulled over at a gas station. I bought a coffee I didn't drink and sat in my car, staring at nothing. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to tell someone, but who would believe me? My plant is alive and follows me across cities? They'd think I was crazy. Maybe I was. But the bruises on my arm, where the vines had grabbed me, were real. I opened my phone, scrolling back through photos. I had taken a few of the plant when I first bought it. It was small then, beautiful, yes, but normal. I zoomed in on the first picture and stopped breathing. In the corner of the image, reflected faintly in the glass of the window behind the plant, was a face. Watching me, eyes wide, mouth open. I swear that face wasn't there before. I scrolled to the next photo. Another angle. Another reflection. Same face. Closer now. My phone buzzed suddenly. A known number. My heart stopped. I answered. There was only humming on the other end. That same soft, low hum the plant made when it was calm, before it fed. I hung up and dropped the phone. I was shaking. I looked around the gas station parking lot. People were walking, laughing, living normal lives. No one noticed that I was falling apart. I couldn't keep running. I had to go back. I had to destroy it. Whatever it was, whatever I let into my home, into my life. I had to end it before it took more. But as I got back on the road and headed home, a terrifying thought pressed into my brain. What if it didn't come from the plant store? What if it was never really a plant at all? What if it had been waiting for someone like me, someone tired, alone, and just open enough to welcome it in? And what if it had already grown inside me? Because lately, when I close my eyes at night, I hear the hum coming from inside my own chest.